Hi everyone, it's me, Arden Lee. I realized recently that it's been maybe 3 years. Yeah, it's been 3 years since I made a video update on this particular topic. And I was starting to think like, man, I bet people out there are going like, man, she did all this magic about making this big pact. She made this deal with the devil. She went to the crossroads, and what came of it? It's been years and we haven't heard from her. Oh man, you guys. So very much has happened. And I waited a long time in making this video because I didn't feel like I had enough to talk about yet. And then just the other day I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to just be where I'm at with it and talk a little bit about the effects of making a spirit pact. So for any of you who maybe aren't quite up to speed, I have a whole playlist of these videos tracking everything that happened in this particular narrative. And I'll link that in the description if you want to check it out later. But the TLDR is that in 2021, I set out an intention. I went onto my YouTube channel and was just like, you know, the one thing that I've really never done with magic that I think I'd really like to is I've never really fully committed to using it to give myself the music career that I want. Because maybe I'm afraid that like it's too big of an ask, or you know, it's that thing where when it means so much to you and you fail, like that would be heartbreaking, right? But in 2021, I was like, screw it. Magic has never not worked for me eventually. And so I might as well make that big ask. And as soon as I set that intention, I didn't even know how I was going to do it. I just set that intention by making that video. And as soon as I did that, I started getting all these synchronicities around deal with the devil, go to the crossroads, Robert Johnson, you know, selling his soul to be the most amazing blues guitarist, etc. All of that stuff. And in the subsequent videos, I talked about how I discovered that it was Hermes, the Greek god, who was showing up for me and interested in making this deal with me, and also what he wanted out of me, which was essentially to use my skill sets in repatterning, in mental health, to help out artists in the music industry specifically. I mean, you know, hopefully like hopefully lots of people are helped out regardless, but specifically around offering support around mental health and creativity in the music industry, where so often young artists can kind of get like sucked up, you know, by the cash cow of the music business and chewed up and spit out, etc. And in September of 2021, I went to a crossroads here in Los Angeles and I offered up the contract. I wrote out the deal as I understood it. I burned one, I offered it to Hermes, and I took the other one and signed it, and I have it over on my altar as we speak. And then there were some events where I met my co-writer Maddox, who has co-written with me the songs that are going to be on this next upcoming album titled The Bourbon Room Sessions. We titled it that because we met at the Bourbon Room. And it was right about there, I think, where I left off. It was about 3 years ago. It would have been around this time, I think, in 2022. And yeah, like I'm sure probably a lot of people were like, oh, well, nothing ever came of that, you know, so much for magic or whatever. Oh my goodness, you guys, so much has happened. So very much has happened. And even in this video, I'm not going to talk about everything. I look forward to the day when I can, you know, map every connection out, you know, like the conspiracy theorist meme with the wall with all the, you know, I would love to be able to do that one day. Today's not going to be that day, but I do have some updates to give. And I asked Hermes last night, you know, should I go and make a video and update everyone, even though I don't have everything to speak about that I wish I did right now. And And he said yes. He was like, yeah, it's never a bad idea to connect with your audience from an authentic place, showing where you're at. So there's an alarm going off in my building. I don't know if you can hear that, but it goes off in my building all the time, so I'm not worried about it. It's how I like to teach hyper-arousal when we do that part of the repatterning project. Anyway, so what's changed for me since making this pact? Well, one thing in particular is that I now do, gosh, more than 10 times the spell work that I used to do. My friend Alex, my buddy Alexander Moore of Practical Occult, who is a professional sorcerer and a teacher of magic himself, actually was teasing me the other day because he reminded me that when we first met, and that was actually right around 2022 as well. It's, yeah, we actually met on the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction on April 12th, 2022. Yeah, which is remarkable because, as our mutual friend Joel Adifone pointed out, he was the one who noted this. He was like, that's the day that you guys first messaged each other? He was like, that was the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. That was Neptune being, you know, the ruler of Pisces, is all about engaged compassion in the world. And Jupiter is about expansion, about magnificence, about becoming greater and increasing our abilities, our abundance, our skill sets, etc. And so what happens when engaged compassion in the world meets greatness and abundance and expansion? Then we can put those tools to use in the world, creating greater outcomes. So me and Alex first messaged each other on that day. And recently, and we've become very, very good friends since, and recently he was teasing me. He was like, you know, when I met you, you said, all I will ever need to do magically is just a few sigils a year, maybe a sigil a month at that. And he even said, and you didn't even say like, that's what I'm doing now, or that's what I foresee for myself or whatever. He said, you were certain about it. You said, that's all I'll ever need. Ha, well, famous last words. This pact has absolutely changed me. I also truly believe that my meeting Alex was quite very likely orchestrated by Hermes, as Alex is absolutely someone who, if you make friends with him, if you learn from him, if you hire him as a teacher, if you take his classes, you really can 10x your magic. You really can expand what you're doing in ways that perhaps previously you may not have imagined possible. And so I do also think that my meeting Alex may have very likely been orchestrated by Hermes, or been in some way a result of this pact to help to equip me with what I would need in order to fulfill my end of it. Oof. And it's really interesting. You know, this series is titled Deal with the Devil, because yeah, I went to the crossroads and that's the typical, you know, thing. And I did not in any way sell my soul. The pact was for me to exchange my skills and my services in service of aims that Hermes finds worthy and valuable. Again, that helping with the mental health and the creative processes, specifically of artists who are in the music industry, who maybe otherwise might, you know, be conditioned by less caring forces, by maybe capitalistic forces that just want to squeeze a product out of them or whatnot. And so in no way did I sell my soul, right? And it wasn't even a deal with what we typically think of as the devil. You know, it wasn't Lucifer or Satan or, you know, the opposer or however else, whatever names that we might have for that entity. It was Hermes, who is typically known as a much more neutral figure. Like, yes, he's a trickster, but he's someone that I think has a lot of really noble aims in terms of communication, in terms of music, in terms of integrity and authenticity and doing the right thing. And I know that, like, just because of like the way I've titled this series, like I'm probably gonna get people who are like, oh, she sold her soul, she made a deal with the devil or whatever. And it's yeah, traditionally, historically, like any kind of witchcraft was considered doing a deal with the devil, because any spirit working with any force from beyond the veil would have been considered evil of some sort, right? Back in those sort of puritanical days, which certainly the remnants of that have not left our society entirely. And so I didn't sell my soul in any way. I made an agreement to show up with services that I could offer and skill sets in exchange for a successful career in music, you know, and the ability to wield, to have the influence that would allow me to effect that sort of good governance of the work and the positive changes and the positive impact that I would like to make in the world. And also to be able to have a career where I get to play music and express myself and write and sing and all those wonderful things. And what I'm kind of thinking on now that I'm reflecting on these past few years is, yeah, I didn't in any way sell my soul, but this pact has absolutely changed me. I feel very changed as a person. Not my inherent values, not anything that it would in any way pull me out of my integrity, but I am, I certainly cast a lot more magic. My magic skills have increased a lot, and that's a positive. You know, I'm not in any way complaining, of course, but there is a sort of feralness that I feel to myself, which may be the result of doing a lot of cumulative magic. The way that I am able to perceive timelines based on the amount of divination that I do. I went from, you know, like pulling a few tarot cards maybe like every once in a while or whatever, to now like I divine almost every day. I divine almost every day, and I'm constantly like, all right, I have a list of spells to do, which spells, you know, should come next or whatever, or hey, are we ready for this next phase yet? I have these things on my list. What's the next thing? And so that gives you a kind of like integrative relationship with time, with timelines, with the ways that things are playing out, that oftentimes will make you look kind of crazy if you try and tell anyone else about it, which is one of the reasons I've primarily been pretty quiet. And a lot of my, even, you know, the content I've been making these days, it used to be that I would just be transparent about my own processes, and I would be very, very transparent about whatever I was fielding or going through, and I built a really great audience that way, which was really, really lovely and very correct for where I was at the time. And now I've been really quiet, and a lot of my content has been, it feels more like making content. It feels more like I am talking over the points that I already know that I teach, right? And that's useful too, that's great. But it has meant that I have not in a while kind of sat and gotten real and authentic about where I'm at with my audience. And I miss that. I'm looking forward to being able to return to that. The things that have unfolded, there are so many moving parts. There are just so many, I'm always waiting on the slowest common denominator. So it's like, this piece is moving, this piece is moving, this piece is moving, but I'm waiting on this one. Okay, now this one has moved forward, now the next one and the next one. And I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of moving pieces. I could not have anticipated at the outset when I made this deal just how extraordinarily complex it would end up being, and how miraculous too. Like, I know that as I'm speaking right now, there's there's like a bit of exhaustion in me. And like, yeah, absolutely. I've been through some real ordeals, some real strong challenges these past few years, but they have not in any way been destructive to me, certainly not in any lasting sense. They have instead helped me to, I guess, like, we're only tested when we're only tested when we're in the fire, right? It is only through the fires of ordeal that we learn how strong we truly are. And the strength and the skill sets that I have developed through this have been extraordinary. If it were not for this experience, I may not have ever truly realized the extent of my capabilities, which is exciting. In retrospect, it's exciting in retrospect, and it's very scary in the moment. It was scary a lot of times. And not even because of the magic, really. But rather that because there were certain things that I was asking for that required a great deal of digging out very deeply rooted patterns and to do that quickly. It's like you can dig with a shovel and it's going to take you a while. So if you're asking for things to go quickly, and it's like, it's been 3 years, so I'm just like, but yes, for the things that needed to happen, actually this was fairly quick. And if you need to dig that deep, that quickly, then the method of doing that is going to be much more explosive, right? Like there are literally, you know, when you dig in a quarry, you can use I don't know. I'm not a quarry worker, but yeah, like you can, you know, you use dynamite to blow up, so you can get down as deep as you need to go. So some things were quite explosive at some points. They were, however, especially in retrospect, I can say they were controlled demolitions. I look back and I'm like, yeah, no one actually got hurt. There's nothing that could not be salvaged, repaired, etc. And all the changes that needed to happen were facilitated in ways that did not feel smooth at the time, but that in retrospect, all the dots connecting make sense. I know I'm being incredibly vague here, and that is a necessity at this point. I guess I just wanted to come on and say that I'm still here. I am still very much in this narrative. I am extraordinarily grateful for all of it. And I am also deeply changed as a person in ways that I am told that the work that I have been doing these past few years, which will in some form or another be public at some point, much of which is very much key to the album, that this will be what comes to define my eldership. That the work that I am doing now, the work that I have been doing, is what I'm going to be known for, what is going to give me the reputation or authority or expertise or whatnot that will come to define me even in my later years. So when something like that is happening, like, yeah, 3 years can go by, but then your spirits are like, 3 years, that's nothing. So I'm grateful. And I am changed. And I am much more embracing of a lot of my true nature now that I have a lot more self-trust, now that I better understand my abilities when tested in the fires, yeah, it has been a wild and remarkable journey. And I would love to be able to say more about it at this point, but it has been like, it has been a process that requires stillness and privacy, like a photo developing in a dark room or a flower blossoming in a controlled greenhouse environment. It has needed this bubble in which to unfold. But when it's done, I hope to be able to share as much of it as I can. And for sure, the music obviously will be shared. It is wild how much I did not understand the songs I was writing when I was writing them. There are songs that I wrote, and the album is now 7 songs. Originally, we were going to do 5, and then we added a 6th one, and then at the last minute, we added a cover. And it just became this cohesive narrative that I didn't know I was writing at the time when I was writing it. There were things that I was writing that I thought were purely fiction. I was just writing what I felt best went along to the tracks that Maddox gave me, because Maddox composed the music, the instrumental tracks first, and then I wrote my vocal part on top of the music that he composed. So there were songs where I was like, well, what does this song just sound like? Or let me make up a fictional scenario to go with this music. And every bit of it ended up coming true in ways that I could not possibly have anticipated at the outset. Some of that was scary when it was happening. But I look back and I now see, again, all of the dominoes or all the dots connecting in ways that ultimately were incredibly generative and positive. And so I'm looking forward to sharing the songs when I can. The album is not yet finished. We're waiting on just a few very critical elements. And that's where I talk about, like, when I say, like, sometimes, like, you're just, like, waiting on the slowest common denominator. There's been a lot of that. But it's important to me not to compromise and put in things that I know ultimately are not really what is in alignment for the work. So I'm not attached to where those pieces come from either, but, like, I know when a piece fits and when I'm just trying to make something fit that doesn't fit. So it will take a little time, I think. I'm hoping it's close to done, but we shall see. And I haven't yet integrated the entire process into, like, sound bites. I've been, for the last year or so, I've been processing and integrating all that and thinking about, like, how do I possibly tell this story? Wow, yeah. How do I possibly tell this story? But I'm very excited to tell it because it has been an extraordinary learning experience. And I'm really proud of the work that I did. And I don't just mean writing the songs. I mean the magic that the songs necessitated that I didn't understand was also crucial to my ask in the original Pact that I made. It's really cool looking back and seeing how it all connects. But since I can't really talk more about it right now, or at least I'm choosing to protect what I am incubating. Yeah, I'm sure, like, the way that I'm being vague about it is probably kind of frustrating. So I think that's pretty much the update that I have. I'm excited to share more. It's been a wild process that has changed me utterly, thoroughly, in ways I am quite proud of, and the music is really beautiful. I'm looking forward to sharing it with everyone. And yeah, so still here, still very much in that pact. And yeah, even though I have not had a lot to show for it publicly yet, it has definitely been happening. There have been so many changes and so much magic, and I look forward to being able to tell you all the story from start to finish one day. We shall see. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you'll stay patient with me so that when it does come out, I hope you'll be here to listen and to hear about everything that happened. And yeah, so that's what I got for now. Thanks for listening, and go do more magic.